Okay, great. So we're gonna start now. Hello, everybody. Good evening and good morning for those who are around across the world. Yeah, I think it's different time zone between us, and some people they are at morning in the morning, and some people at night. Here in Malaysia, we are at 10 p.m. at the evening. So hello and good evening to everybody here. I wish you are doing well and in the best of health and staying safe and healthy. My name is Hashid Muqbil Al-Naeem, a second year student at University Technology Malaysia, reading software engineering. Today, I'm gonna be the moderator in this session, and I will give you some, our agenda for today. So our agenda for today, first of all, we will have our speaker, Mr. Stephen, to share with us her knowledge and information about living and studying in Canada. Then we will have a Q&A session. In the Q&A session, we will provide a link for attendance for certificate. For those who are out of UTM, they will get a certificate. And for the student, or for those who are a student in UTM, they will get a merit certificate. I hope you will enjoy the session and having a lot of knowledge and having a pleasant evening. I would like to give a short introduction or short view about our great speaker today. First of all, we would like to give a warmest and heartiest welcome to our speaker today, Mr. Stephen Watt. Okay, Stephen Watt, to give you some information about Stephen Watt. Stephen Watt, he is a co-founder, Northern Light Canada, Toronto, Ontario. He is also a manager marketing at Rotman School of Management, University of Toronto. Stephen Watt has been doing a lot of work for a refugee. I have met him long time ago. In 3 years from now, we are knowing each other. And in that time, he's keep helping a lot of refugees to bring them to Canada and done a great job. We all really appreciate that. And today he will share with us her knowledge, information, and wise. Okay, great and heartiest welcome to you, Mr. Stephen. The mic is yours. I will make you as a co-host if you wanted to share the slides, if you have slides to share.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hashid. And like you say, we have known each other quite well for many years now. I think it was 2018 that I was in Malaysia, and I met some great people there, some of whom I have since tried to bring to Canada. So that was the same trip that I met Hassan Kontar, who some of you might know. He was living in your airport for 8 months. So that was an interesting trip. I was passing through that airport and he was there. And we got to meet, and he's now in Canada through the private sponsorship program, and he's doing quite well, has written a book. Anyway, about myself, like Hesh said, I work at the University of Toronto. So I'm kind of wearing two hats in this talk. I'm wearing my University of Toronto Rotman School of Business hat, which is my paid job. And I'm wearing my Northern Lights Canada hat, which is a not-for-profit, which means it's like a volunteer job. And at the Rotman School, I actually work in marketing to promote the school. So websites and, brochures and a lot of communications, videos, stuff like that. Obviously, having worked at the University of Toronto for many years, I've learned a little bit about how to get into schools, some of the tricks and techniques of getting into schools. So I can speak a little bit about that. Also from my volunteer work, I mostly do private sponsorship to Canada, which is this program we have where people can put together money and put it in the bank and basically bring a refugee to Canada. But I've been doing that for about 5 years. And since then, a lot of the people have actually arrived. So I've had to also learn about how to like settle people. So some of the stuff about finding a job when you're a newcomer, writing a resume, or you know, which school program to choose and all that. I've had to learn through my volunteer work. So hopefully I can share some of that with you guys today. One thing that I'm going to do now, and I am watching the chat. So Abrar, I'm sorry you didn't get any merit from the previous events. Hopefully this one will be better. Anyway, I'm going to put the website is the website for the not-for-profit. It's called Northern Lights. And I'm going to refer, like most of what I'm going to talk about is on that website. For example, there's a page on how to write a Canadian resume. There's a page on how to make a refugee claim from within Canada. There's a page on, you know, 10 things to do when you come to Canada. So I'll post some of those links now. So the good thing there is if you don't feel like taking notes, you can probably find everything on that page already. So check it out. And I'm sure Hashid will have a sort of follow-up email where he can post some of these links as well. So there's a link for what to do when you arrive in Canada. Check that out. Let's see, I'm just gonna post maybe 2 more. Canadian resume. The Canadian resume one is interesting because it's not just about writing resumes, it's about kind of positioning yourself for work, especially the Western market, which is quite different than in Asia. Like the way you write a resume and talk about yourself and interview and get a job in Asia and the Middle East is very, very different than it is in Europe, US, and Canada. And some of that is covered in that Canadian resume write-up. So have a look. And I think I'll just post one more. If any of you are refugees, there's a lot on the website for you because that was the original focus of my volunteer work. So I'm gonna post the post on how to make a refugee claim within Canada. Okay, so Hashid, I feel like you can drive the ship a little bit. I'll talk a little bit, but you know, you and I know each other quite well, and you know what I do, I know what you do. So I'm going to talk a bit, but then I'll let you direct the conversation if there's things you want me to talk about. For example, which topic would you like to cover first?
Well, it's up to you which one you wanted to go first, and it depends on the slides that you created. You will share the slides, right?
Well, the only slideshow I have prepared, which is on one of those links, is how to write a Canadian resume, and that's itself is like a 45-minute session. So I can talk about that. One thing I am reading the comments because it's always good to do that. One thing I would want to say is, you know, even though we have this organization called Northern Lights Canada, I am just one guy doing this in my spare time. So if your question is, Stephen, help me get to Canada, it's like, I'm just going to point you back to the website and say, please read this and do it yourself. Because I don't actually work for I work in marketing. I don't work in immigration or anything. So all I can do is provide information and guides. And you know, you have to do your own research. And actually that's a really good point in general, is all the information you could ever need is out there and you just have to find it. And if that means doing your own private research, and this is whether you want to go to a Canadian university, travel through some other immigration program, whatever, the information is out there. And you know, you have to show your diligence, your hard work in finding it. Now, obviously, it's also good to talk to people. But I know as somebody who works at a university, when I get somebody asking me a question when the answer is already on the website, it's irritating, and it's like the conversation's already over. So because I'm like, just look at our website, it's already there. Like, don't be so lazy. So I would say when it comes to anything, whether you're going to school, trying to come to a new country, whatever you're trying to do your own research. Take time, and just dig, like almost like you're doing a research essay on the topic. And so by the time you actually get a chance to talk to somebody, who, whether they work in immigration or university or whatever, you have intelligent questions, because, you know, people don't mind, especially people in Canada, don't mind taking the time to share information, but they want to make sure their time is being used properly. And so if you have done all the information, all the research, and your questions are, you know, based on that, and you're just needing to know something a little more specific to that person, then that person is likely to take the time to talk to you. So that's just a kind of general principle. Another general principle of doing anything, at least in the North America market, is networking. Networking is hugely important, and it's as important for immigration as it is for finding a job, as it is for going to school. I always think like the opportunity you need is like 2 people away. So for example, if you were to come to Canada, for example, I might throw a house party to welcome you, and there would probably be a friend of like somebody in the room would have the job, the knowledge of the school program, the knowledge of how to get your wife to Canada. Probably somebody not in that room, but a friend of a person in that room would have the opportunity you need. So for example, say you came to Canada and you thought you wanted to do welding or civil engineering or something, there'd probably be somebody in a party of 20 people who knows exactly the person you need to talk to do that thing. So the only way you'll get to that person is by meeting all 20 people. And it's not just about, one important thing about networking is it's not just about like asking people to do stuff for you. That's kind of the worst form of networking. The best form of networking is if you create a relationship first where somebody actually likes you. So don't start with what you want. Start with like a little bit of personality, a little bit of sharing, like you would with any friend. And then another trick with networking is try to do favors for people, because people remember that, and they will remember that, oh, it's called building social capital. So if you know, if you say, hey, I see that you have a website, do you want help with your website? Okay, I say, yes, great. So now you're volunteering for me to build my website. And then in 3 weeks, you say, oh, and by the way, my sister is stuck in Afghanistan. Is there anything I could do? I could be like, of course, I'm going to try to do something for you because you've just been building my website for the last 3 weeks. So that's just kind of a funny example, but that is a key to networking, is this kind of reciprocity. If you offer value to people, then they are more likely to respond when you then have a question or need information or even need an opportunity. And the networking thing is quite amazing. So the way society works in much of the world is things are very hierarchical. And so, for example, if I were in Syria and I wanted a job, I would ask my uncle, who was, you know, a friend of a general, to make some arrangements. So it's a patronage system where in much of the world, where if you know somebody important, that person will, you know, connect you to the job you want. And then when you have a job, you know, your boss is kind of scary and you're kind of scared of your boss. And then he kind of bullies you. And then you kind of bully the people under you and they're kind of scared of you. So it's this very hierarchical structure, and a structure where it all depends on, you know, your family connections and so on and so forth. This is a generalization, but this is how it works in a lot of traditional societies. That is not how things work in Canada. Things work on like the connections you make often are based on, you know, how likable you are. how well you can hold a conversation. People will hire you. Like I've been on hiring committees, and one key thing that people think of when they're hiring, like in a job interview, is can I stand to spend 35 hours a week with this person? Like, I'm going to be with this person more than my own wife in some cases. Can I stand that? Can I imagine that? Is that something I want to do? So that likability factor and that personality factor is often more important than hard skills. Or maybe a hard skills will get you into the door. Like, you need to study, you need to have certain hard skills. But as to whether you actually get hired, at least in the Western context, likability is really huge. So, work on your personality skills, work on sort of making as wide a friend network as you can, and then and then be a little bit targeted. So, for example, right now with COVID, it's obviously hard to do a lot of in-person parties. So what do you do in that case? There are websites like meetup.com, or I think it's .com, where you can physically meet people who share the same interests as you. And I guess, at least in Canada, we're allowed to do that outdoors without masks. So there's things like that. Then there's LinkedIn gatherings and meetings that are virtual or not virtual. These are all great opportunities to meet people who share your interest and who are interested in the same field as you. And again, it's that person-to-person contact where somebody might have exactly the information you need. They don't have to be high up. They can be higher than you, lower than you, beginning, middle, end of the process. But they might have, like, you never know who has the information or opportunity you need. So as much as you can network with people, both physically close to you and online and virtually, is important. And that is also part of the information gathering. For example, say you're new to Canada and you think you want to work in agriculture. Well, talk to some people, and within about 3 weeks, you'll realize that agriculture is almost not an industry in Canada like it is in some countries. I mean, there's just not a lot of professional agriculture jobs. And if they, like, for example, they are maybe in specific parts of the country, but that's a kind of very key information that you will find out if you talk to people. So this is an example of, like, do your research, but also network. Because information and connections are made through people. It's all peer-to-peer stuff here in Canada. So these are kind of general principles of anything I'm going to talk about, whether it's coming to Canada, finding a job, finding an educational opportunity. It's that combination of, like, do your research and then do some in-person networking. And remember, with in-person networking, do not be demanding. Don't start a conversation with, I want this, tell me this, sir, please tell me that. Make friends first. So that's my opening speech. Asha, what do you think next? Or should we, I do see a little bit of hands and stuff like that. Should we do the Q&A now, or should we do it like at the very end, or how do you want to handle that one?
No, that would be great if you just share when, students need to arrive to Canada, since they arrived, or what they have to do, what the points, or what they, started, how do they get started to get to know people, or also you can talk about studying or living in, how's the life in Canada looks like, something like that. And for those who are asking about question and answer, there will be a question and answer Q&A session after his speak. So yes, he will speak about his experience. Now then he will tell us about how to do the resume in Canadian way. Then we will start the session Q&A session, and in that session, you can either unmute yourself and speak directly, or just write in the chat box, and I will read your question to our speaker. So yeah, hold it on to the Q&A session, please, guys. And yeah, The mic is
Okay,
yours.
and one other thing, I did see somebody do the virtual Zoom hand wave. I find those are great. So we should encourage people, if you do have a question, to use that virtual hand wave, and that way Hashid knows like that you want to ask a question. So in terms of school, I think most of you are in school, and I think that's the greatest thing you should and could be doing right now. The key to kind of coming to many countries is through school. And, you know, when you're done your undergraduate, doesn't mean you're finished, it means you have to keep going. So that means a master's level program after your undergraduate program. When it comes to master's levels program, you guys are at a top ranked university, and you should continue to study at top ranked universities because it just opens a lot more doors. You don't have to explain what your university is if it's already highly ranked. The other advantage with staying at higher, like top ranked universities is the best professors tend to know each other in each field. And, you know, I know that at my school, the professors talk to each other in the school. I work at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto, and the professors do talk to each other, but they consider their peers to be professors in their field at other universities. And that's an example of networking that can be of advantage to you because, for example, professors can send students to other schools just through their word of mouth. That's a kind of amazing power that professors have. So at the undergraduate level, recruitment and admissions of students is handled entirely by staff. But at the higher levels of university, the professors have more and more power to make those decisions. So for example, at the accounting PhD program at the Rotman School of Management, where I work, every single one of those PhD students who come into the program are recommended personally from some professor in Germany, I think, who the professor at my school trusts and considers to be like a leading person in the field of accounting. So the students, every single one of the students in that program comes through a personal recommendation, a word of mouth. And that's a kind of example of, oh, my voice is echoey. That's an example of how the kind of human connections can overcome all other barriers. So in terms of your own, if you can stay in Malaysia, which has a pretty robust economy, but if you're thinking of going to a place like Canada, the school route is actually the best. And so keep studying and keep getting as high marks as you can, and keep studying at top ranked universities. The other amazing thing about the higher levels of school is they are funded by the schools typically. So, you know, your undergraduate is going to be expensive unless you're on an amazing scholarship like our dear friend Hashid. Your master's is going to be for sure at least half funded by the school or the government of the country. So I did a master's at University of British Columbia, and I had to pay some tuition, but I also worked as a teacher's assistant, which, you know, helped pay like, I don't know, a lot of my tuition. So at the master's level, you're probably only paying about half. And at the PhD level, you're probably not paying anything at all. They tend to be entirely funded by scholarships. So that's another advantage of staying in school is it gets cheaper the higher you go, the further you go. You just have to make sure you're really, really getting good marks. So that's my advice on school. Another piece of advice on school is get to know your professors. So when I went to school, I was, when I went to university, I went to Queen's University. These are Canadian universities, McGill University in Montreal and UBC in Vancouver. And I had quite high grades, but I stupidly thought that the only point of going to school was getting high grades. So I had professors who liked me and would, you know, want to talk to me after class. And I'd be like, oh no, I have to go write an essay. That was a really dumb mistake in retrospect. Professors can, like I said, they have this amazing power at universities. But tell a professor what to do. they power over all sorts of, and if your professor like you, your professor can open doors of many kinds for you. So take the time to your professor. Like in Canada, for example, professors at the master's and PhD level all have office hours. And I used to have office hours and nobody would ever come because I guess they were scared of me, or I was scared of professors. I don't know. Or people would come to the professor's office hours and just cry about, they didn't get a high enough grade in their essay or something. That's a wasted opportunity. Though that should be a time for you to go to your professor and have an interesting and intelligent conversation about something you're working on, something you're interested in. And that is where you make that human connection. The professor will remember you, they'll like you, and they will recommend you for opportunities, either in school or in work. That is something you should definitely do. Network with your professor when possible. Another reason for going to higher levels of university is your chances of actually getting accepted for a student visa increase the higher the level of the university is. So I noticed from the lists that Hasha gave me of who was going to be in attendance is there's a lot of people in this class who are from like high refugee producing countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Northern Africa, whatever. There's a lot of people from refugee countries in this class, Yemen, to name one, and it's actually very hard student visa accepted if you're from one of these countries. And the reason is Canada knows that, for example, if you were coming from Afghanistan to study in Canada, something like 97% of people who come from Afghanistan to Canada on student visas then claim refugee status. So Canada rejects 97% of student visas from Afghanistan. It also rejects 97% of student visa applications from Syria. They peg the rejection rate on the rate of people claiming asylum when they get here. So it's very hard to come to Canada if you're from one of these countries on a student visa. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible. If you come on a program that's higher level, longer term, more serious, with a serious school, your chances of having your student visa application accepted are increased. So like, for sure, if you came to study English and you just paid for like 2 weeks of school at a no-name English language school, you're for sure going to be rejected. Your student visa, Canadian immigration will say no. But if you're coming to the University of Toronto for a PhD, you're probably going to be accepted because that's a serious program. And Canadian immigration says, you know what, this person is actually serious about school. They're not just using school as an excuse to get into Canada. So, I guess stay in school. It's the message there. So Hasha wanted to talk about what to do when you come to Canada. I think it's sort of true of regardless of what kind of program you come to Canada on, whether it's refugee, immigration, school, there's certain sort of basic steps. The first one obviously is where do you go when you get out of the airport? So say you're ideally when you get out of the airport, you've already made some Canadian connections, people who will help you. It's very lonely and depressing and hard to do this stuff on your own. So if you are coming to Canada, for example, as a refugee, then make some friends with people, say from your community or who are volunteers like myself, who can sort of be there at the airport and pick you up and give you a little bit of care when you arrive. If you're coming on a student visa, the school will probably have help you made arrangements, or at least provided you with information. Some schools will even pick people up at the airport and bring them somewhere. So definitely just don't show up alone. Show up having made connections, and show up knowing what you're going to do. For example, with a refugee claim, you do not do it in the airport. You want like to be prepared, and you can even get free legal help in Canada, but it takes, you have to come and make an appointment and so on. Do not make a refugee claim in an airport typically, because this is your one chance to sort of make your case, and you need like legal help to do that. And same with school, like don't just show up and go to school the next day. Show up like a good 2 weeks before your classes begin. That way you can sort of do all the basic stuff you need to do, and before sort of starting your new journey. People tend to stay when they first come. If they're lucky, they have a friend who can, give them a spare bedroom for a couple of weeks. In Toronto, housing, like every major city in the world, housing is very limited. People just don't have like empty basements here. They tend to not even have spare bedrooms. Like it's expensive to live in. And, I live in a house, as you can see, and every single part of my house is occupied. I have a friend living in the basement. I have a friend living upstairs. I've got me living in another room. I'm building a room right now, if you hear banging, because I'm turning a back porch into another room, so I can have an office. Like space is very tight. So typically, it's hard to actually just stay with a friend for a couple of weeks, which means you might need an Airbnb. In an ideal scenario, you would have a rented apartment before you even come here. But most landlords in Canada will not rent to somebody who's not in the country. They need to see the person, have the person physically sign the lease. So it usually takes like a couple weeks before you're even in a position to rent. So you have to figure out what are those first few weeks. Also right now, because of COVID, we have all sorts of quarantine rules. So you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, right? And they are really strict about it. Like quarantine means you're in a place where nobody is in physical contact with you. So if it's a hotel room, they can't even go in your room, and you can't even leave your room. And if it's a friend's basement, your friend can't even talk to you unless they shout through the door. They're very serious about it. And Canada actually sends health inspectors on day 8, I think, to come to the house and establish that you really are there. So if you're out going for a walk and the health inspector comes and you're not there, you can get in serious trouble. I think it's like thousands of dollars of fines. So that's kind of a COVID thing. But regardless, you're going to need somewhere to stay for 2 weeks, whether it's COVID or not COVID. And so that should be part of your plan. So what to do when quarantine is over, you're able to go outside again and do things. I do have a post on sort of the first top things to do in your first like 10 days, 2 weeks in Canada. So let me just find that. And arriving in Canada, 10 things to do after you arrive. So it's all in this post, which I'm posting in the chat right now. And, I'm talking about Canada. A lot of these things would sort of be similar in other Western countries. Western countries tend to have similar processes, but I wrote this for Canada, and I wrote it mostly for Toronto, which is the city I'm living in. It would vary. It would be a little bit different in other cities and provinces. But yeah, so just to quickly summarize what's in this document, and check the chat because I just put the URL there. You need a bank account. It's sort of the first step to establishing yourself as an official person in the new country. So the great thing in Canada is banks love your business and want business. And even if you're new to Canada, they really want your business because that will turn you into a lifelong customer, which is a money-making opportunity for them. So go to the bank as soon as you're able. Bring all your IDs because they want to establish who you are. Hopefully you have a passport. If you don't have a passport, maybe you have some other form of ID. There are some banks that are better for new Canadians, newcomers than others. And I won't bore you with that, what they're called, but you can see that in that post. And try to get a credit card if you can. Credit cards aren't used in everywhere in the world, but in Canada, they're very, very important. For example, if you want to get a phone plan, like you want to get, like, phone your friends, they're going to ask for a credit card. They're going to ask for a credit card for a number of things. It's hard to get a credit card when you have no credit in that country. So sometimes a bank will first give you a secure credit card, which is kind of like you see in Islamic finance, where you have to put money in it to take money out. You're never like going on like negative money. You're always like just you put money in and you take money out. That's called a secure credit card. And if that's the only one you can get, then get that one. Obviously, don't spend too much money on your credit card. Make your payments regularly because credit cards have very high interest rates. So the next thing to know is you need a phone. So in a lot of countries in the world, you just sort of buy a SIM card and pay as you go. In Canada, that's a bad way to have a phone plan. If you're spending any amount of time in the country, you should actually have a plan. And we have a number of companies that are from cheap to less cheap. And you sign up and you pay, say, $40 a month with, and you can negotiate, but it's like unlimited data, blah, 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 blah. Phone plans in Canada are more expensive than in most countries. I think they're among the most expensive in the world. And I've heard the reason for that is because our country is so big that, they're building cell phone towers in places where like almost nobody is living, but they have to cover the entire country. So that's very expensive. And that means you are going to pay more for your phone plan in Canada than you would pay in like Malaysia, for example. There are some discount plans and less discount plans. Obviously, you get what you pay for. So, shop around. And I find when people come to Canada, after they've created their bank account, it's like all they talk about is phone plans. They talk about with each other. They talk about with other new Canadians, with not new Canadians. It's a big, big decision point as to which phone plan to go with. So do your homework and talk to your friends. The next thing you need to do is there's all these sort of ways to officially establish yourself as a person in Canada. So one, there's something called Service Canada, which is the federal office, and then there's Service Ontario, which is a provincial office. You have to go to both these offices, and they each have different things they offer. So Service Canada is the federal one. They give, for example, a social insurance number through Service Canada. You need that in Canada. I think if you're a student, you can get one too. Definitely if you're a permanent resident, you can. So go to Service Canada. Because of COVID, I think it's by appointment only right now. Normally you could just walk in. So the online address, I'm just scrolling through this page. I feel free to look at it as well. Service Ontario, that provides a number of other options like getting a driver's license and so on. Healthcare is handled through the provincial level. If now, number 6 is English classes. This is more for refugees. If you're coming as a student, you probably already have your classes organized, but if you're coming through any other kind of route into Canada, studying English is the number one thing you can do. And actually, that's probably true even now that you're in Malaysia or Indonesia or wherever you are. You need really good English. And you probably think you already speak good English, but you don't. You need a Canadian accent. Or an accent of whatever country you're in. And you also need to read and write especially in a professional manner. So, the way you write to your friends on WhatsApp is not going to help you when it comes to writing a professional email. So there are classes to learn how to write essays, how to write professional emails, how to write resumes, how to, a lot of this is sometimes called business English or academic English, and definitely study business or academic English, whether you're in Malaysia or whether you come to Canada, because that is the number one investment you can make in your sort of long-term future. You can speak sort of like functional English, but that will probably mean you're going to be stuck in certain jobs like cook, waiter, taxi driver, factory worker. But if you have like higher level English, that opens doors to academic pathways, to professional jobs. If you want to study at higher levels in Canada, they actually require you to have to prove that you have sort of higher level English, whether it's through the IELTS test or through showing that you have a certificate, graduation certificate from one of these programs. So English classes is very, very important. So then once you've sort of done that basic stuff, I threw in number 7, orientation. Like you do need to know how to get around the city. And, a lot of times when you go to a new country, you sort of stick to one tiny little area because it's scary to go here and there. You might get lost on a bus, but do it anyway. The good thing about Canada is there's not really any dangerous area. So, you can take a bus and get lost 2 hours north. Nobody's going to shoot you or rob you because it's a pretty safe country. So, take that adventure. Then you're going to need medical. So the great thing about Canada is our medical system is free, at least if you're a permanent resident or a citizen. If you're a student, I think you have to get health insurance. So organize that before you come here. But if you are lucky enough to be a permanent resident or a citizen, healthcare is free. Hold on, I've got a visitor. Hey, I'm on the Zoom call. I'll do that later. So you need a doctor. So first of all, you typically go to a walk-in clinic if you don't have a doctor, and those are all over the place. And you're only allowed to have one problem at a time at a walk-in clinic, but they will take you and they will give you what you need. Then you should be asking around for if anybody knows a good doctor, because if you are here for any amount of time, you should have a family doctor. Then I have dentist. A lot of people, when they come to Canada, have pretty bad teeth, especially the refugees, because they haven't had dental service in as long as they've been abroad. So dental is expensive, but important. You don't want your teeth hurting all the time. And then, so housing I have as number 10. Housing in a developed country like Canada is one of the hardest things you can do. It's hard to find affordable housing in Canada. So it takes a lot of work on your part to do your research to find a place that's affordable, yet also clean and safe and in an area that you actually want to live in. And one trick in a big city like Toronto is find housing near public transportation. And the best public transportation is our subway system, which is like a metro in some other countries. Even if you lived like far from downtown, for example, if you lived right near a subway station that you could walk to in 30 seconds, then you're like 25 minutes from anywhere in the city. So that's really key, is to try to live near a subway station. There's some parts of the city where there's like no subway station. You have to take a bus here and a bus there. And that's a disaster because, it might take you an hour and a half each way to get to your job or your school. So it's okay to live a little bit far from downtown, but make sure it's near a subway station. So that's my summary of what to do, at least in Canada. It might apply to other countries as well. So I'm going to take a break because I'm tired of hearing my voice. Hasha, why don't we do a few Q&As while we're on this topic?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to get coffee. So if people want to start waving your hands virtually through the Zoom hand wave thing, and Hashid, if you want to like choose one by one questions, I'm going to go get a coffee.
Yeah, that's sure. Simon has question first. So yeah, we will start with him. Guys, raise your hand if you have any question.
Oh, Brian, while we're waiting for those questions to come in, I'm just gonna read some comments. So Brian Wong has some good ones. Okay.
咁點解我咁講？其實因為咧呢幾樣嘢都都係環環相扣、互相影響。咁見到啦，其實 PowerPoint 上面咧，要問3條問題。呢3條問題其實你每一次可能去探朋友嘅時候，可能保安員哥哥都會問你係邊個，你要去你喺邊度嚟，你要去邊度。咁講緊係啲咩咧？你係邊個？其實就係講緊你有幾型。
Do you understand that? Hashid, you're muted. I'm not sure who we were just hearing.
I didn't think she was speaking to us. She, by mistake, unmuted herself.
Oh, yeah, that was Cantonese, as Brian pointed out. So let me just read one question from Brian while we wait for other people to raise their hands. Do they have season tickets for subways and buses and public transportation? We do have monthly passes in this city and most cities. You buy a monthly pass. People always complain about how expensive it is. It is expensive. Okay, Hashid, you might want to only unmute people who are like actually wanting to talk in English because I don't understand that person either. Yeah, so there are monthly passes that you can buy, and if you are going back and forth on public transportation all the time, definitely buy one. I'm finding with COVID, I'm not using public transportation, but I work from home and I don't need it anymore. So another option actually is if you are at all close to your school or your work, people ride bicycles in Toronto a lot, and we have bike paths to make it a little bit safer. So bicycles are a good option, at least when it's not snow on the ground. And walking is a pleasure. I've been walking everywhere lately. So you definitely don't need a car. Don't even think about a car, anything but a car. So Hashid, I see Khalil Ahmed Kazemi has a hand raised if you want to unmute him.
Yeah. You can unmute yourself and speak. Yeah. Also, Simon has a question.
And I really thanks for all the members who managed this webinar, and also a special thanks to Stephen Watt, who has helped hundreds of the refugees in different countries. So sometimes I really wonder how you manage a lot of tasks that you're doing. You're a teacher in university, and also you're doing hundreds of volunteer job. So you're really inspiring for all of us. Thank you very much. Just, I'm Khalil Ahmad, a refugee from Indonesia. So I had a question about those refugees who are coming to Canada, and they have studied universities in other countries like Afghanistan, Syria, or for example, Iraq. So they're refugee and they have studied in university. So what about your certificates? Are they acceptable for the Canadian university, or no, they have to, for example, re-study those university? Are they able to, for example, join university, or no? Should they, for example, study another subjects before entering the university? Thank you.
That's a great question, actually. Each school, like the school I work at is the University of Toronto. Each school has its own process for deciding whether your school that you have finished already is sort of equivalent to Canadian. One actually mistake that people make is there are services like World Education Services that will sort of sorry, my computer's running out of power. That will do that. Will tell you, okay, your certificate from Cabell University is equivalent to an undergraduate at University of Toronto. But I don't think universities actually pay attention to WES all that much. They have their own lists of what your certificate or diploma is equivalent to in Canada. Like U of T, makes that decision itself. And it's kind of case by case. So they have their own list to say like Cabell University undergraduate is like 3/4 of a University of Toronto undergraduate certificate. So there's no way to find out until you actually apply to a Canadian university. West will give you a bit of an idea, and there's one other one besides West, but universities don't actually recognize that very much. So I would say when you come here and you've studied your academic English for 6 months or so, start applying to programs that you like. One thing that is always true in Canada is you always need a Canadian certificate or diploma, because that is your first step to having like a Canadian resume or a Canadian presence. If somebody sees this is a classic problem in Canada, they see your CV and everything is outside of Canada. Even if you were like a doctor or something amazing in another country, Canadians will just see it and like it's as if it didn't exist because it wasn't here. And it's partly kind of a bias or prejudice, but it's also partly because we have no way of confirming. Like, I don't know what a manager in say Afghanistan actually needs to do or does. And I'm probably not going to call your reference in Afghanistan because he might not speak English, time zone is different, all sorts of things. So Canadians, just for their own sort of feeling of safety, will only recognize things that happen in Canada. So that creates this dilemma where people need Canadian experience, but the only way to get Canadian experience is to get Canadian experience. So how, it's impossible. How do you do it? Well, one way to do it is get Canadian schooling. So if you've already done an undergraduate in another country, you probably don't need to get another undergraduate here unless you want to take a master's program. Even like typically you just need to get a Canadian graduate degree. And that can be, we have universities that offer like undergraduate, master's, and PhD. Then we have in Canada a college system, which is more like applied school. So that will teach you how to actually do marketing and so on. And they offer certificates and diplomas. I would advise, if you already have an undergraduate degree and you're not planning on going into a career in academia, forget university and just take a degree or a diploma at a college, and that will prepare you to enter the Canadian job market. The best programs at the colleges and even at some universities have a co-op or what's called an internship, or sometimes it's called a work study. And what that means is you say it's a 2-year program, you will do a 1.5 years of just classes, and then you'll do half a year where the college will actually put you in a job, and they work very hard to find jobs in the same industry that they're teaching you about. And the greatest thing about that is there's 2 amazing things about it. One is if the employer likes you, they might actually offer you a job after the internship is done. So now you've got a job. The other thing is if they don't offer you a job, at least now you have, again, Canadian experience on your resume. So look for those college programs that the longer the better. So 2 years is better than 1 year. And make sure they have an internship or work study as part of them, because that will give you the Canadian experience you need. And thank you for your kind words, Khalil.
You're welcome. I have a question, actually. Sorry.
Yeah.
I heard earlier you said that if people from Syria need to go to Canada as a student visa, they will be rejected, or the chance for being rejected is too high. What about if they get a scholarship from the universities in Canada? Also, they will be rejected, or there is something else, or there is another way? For example, I graduated from bachelor, and I need to do my master in Canada, and I get scholarship from university in Canada. I applied online and I get scholarship, and now I need to apply for a visa to go to continue continue my studies in Canada, that will be also rejected, or there is another option, there is another situation?
The key information when it comes to being accepted or rejected for student visas is it's not black or white. It's an odds game. So like think of it as like percentages. So if you were to apply for like a 2-week ESL program in Canada, your percentage of your chance of getting accepted is maybe like 15%. If you are coming on a master's level with a scholarship to a serious university, your chances go way up. So it could be like 85% now. So it really depends. Like a scholarship increases your odds because it shows that you're a serious student and that Canada really wants you here as a student. So definitely a scholarship would help. But yeah, odds go up and down. It also depends on the country. So like I said, high refugee producing countries, takes your odds down. If you were to apply from France, for example, of course you're going to be accepted because French people are very unlikely to claim refugee status here. So it's really an odds game. So you want to increase your odds as much as you can. There are a sort of, there's these immigration consultants, and be careful of those, by the way, because a lot of them are just taking your money and like lying. But there are some okay ones. I know some in Canada that are actually reputable. They're like good people. They're not just stealing your money. So they can help you, whether it's refugee or any immigration class, family reunification, student visas. There are some that can actually help with that. And I would say choose one in Canada. In Canada, it's a very regulated industry, these immigration consultants. To get your license, like the government really pays attention to whether you're doing good work or not. And I don't think it's as regulated in the rest of the world. So, I would go with the Canadian one. The last thing you want to do is, you find yourself on a Facebook page with like Canadian flags everywhere and like, come to Canada, and, pictures of Prime Minister Trudeau, and they make big promises like, give us $500 and we'll get you to Canada tomorrow. There's so many scams. It's unbelievable. Those people are probably in Russia or, Ghana or India or something. They don't know anything about Canadian immigration, but they sure will take your money. So don't use them. They're terrible. Be careful and make sure if you're doing that kind of business, that you're with a qualified person, probably based in Canada. But even in Canada, there's a lot of scammers. So, be careful. Hashid, can I read one of these questions in the side?
You can read any question you want. Feel free to read the question and answer.
Thank you. So Abrar, we answered your question, I think, about credit transfers. It sort of depends on the university. Each university makes up its own mind. Enrolling to top, this is from Amin Al-Omar, is enrolling to top universities only dependent on high school certificate and IELTS exam? Are there other requirements? Every school has its own requirements. And when I was talking about like do your research, it's all online. Like everything you could ever want to know is online. So at my school, they have their own, every school has their own sort of requirements. So they might ask for, if it's a business school, they might need 2 years of work experience. They might need references. They will definitely need English, but the IELTS exam, you don't have to write, for example, if your education was in English, even if it was in India or somewhere. So it's either you were schooled in English or you have done one of these English tests, and each school will have a different English test that they'll accept. They may look at your high school transcripts. If it's a postgraduate, they might look at your university transcripts. They might want to do an in-person interview. So for example, with business school, it's not enough just to have high grades. You also have to have like a personality, because they want you to get hired afterwards. And if you can't talk to people, you're not going to get hired. So they might do an in-person interview. For some of the graduate programs, they tend to have like, there's LSAT, GMAT, right? They have these sort of standardized tests that you also have to score highly in. One trick with that is, for example, at my school, if you have a GMAT score of like 780, which I guess is high, they will throw money at you. They'll say, come, we need you. We want our average GMAT score to be higher, and you will do that because yours is like 780. So here's, $20,000 and entrance to our school. So yeah, every school is different, but it's all online. Just look for their recruitment and admissions page. I can keep going. There's some good comments here. Hashid, you want me to shut up yet, or what do you want to do?
Sure, if you want to go to answer the question, or you want to go for the CV part, and then
okay, yeah,
let's
do a bit of Canadian. Yeah, let's do a bit of the Canadian resume. So I can return to the sort of school question if we have time. I guess we have 30 minutes left. I'm going to repost the Canadian resume link in the chat.
You can share it also in the screen and explain while you are sharing. It will be much better to understand.
Okay, so let me open. I just want to make sure I can actually open this slideshow. Yeah, I can. So, oh no, it's canceling. It's asking me to activate my free trial. No, don't want to activate my free trial. Okay, back. Let me see if I can do this. So here I am. Share screen. Okay, share screen. Desktop. Share. Okay, tell me, Kasia, tell me what you see.
Yes, yeah, we can see
that
introduction. Who I am, briefly, Stephen Watt. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let me try to do this. There we go. So this is on SlideShare, and it is in the link that I hopefully sent, which is like writing the Canadian resume. The SlideShare is embedded on that page, so go and read it on your own. This is a really long, like this alone takes an hour, so I'm not gonna like do the whole presentation. I did this presentation for the Jewish Immigrant and Aid Services of Toronto, and they bring in a lot of newcomers from around the world. So that's what JIAS is, and Northern Lights is my not-for-profit. So I actually do have a Gmail now since doing this, so don't laugh at me. I'm gonna skip through this. So yeah, so that's my LinkedIn profile. Everybody, by the way, please have a good LinkedIn profile. And at the end of this, how to write a Canadian resume, hopefully it also gets you to write a good LinkedIn profile, which is actually more important than resumes, by the way. Paper resumes are less seen nowadays. People will just go straight to your LinkedIn profile. So that's mine. You'll see in the About section that there's kind of a summary, I don't know, 5 sentences or so about like who I am. Those are very, very important. And that kind of says who you are and what your value is in the world. They are very hard to write well. You probably need a native English speaker to help you edit yours. But even getting like an idea of what your value is in the world, that's a bigger question, which if I were to do a whole hour on this topic, that's what we'd be getting at. It's almost like a psychological exercise. Like, what am I good at? What do I want in life? What do I have to offer in this world? These are kind of big questions you don't usually have to answer in a very specific functional job, like if they're just hiring you to do coding or something. But the higher you go in your career, the more you have to have like this ability to talk about yourself in these sort of bigger terms. And some people call that your elevator pitch. But it's hard. Like if I ask you, why would I hire you? And if you just say, oh, I know how to do Python coding, I'll be like, well, so does 20 million other people. Anything else? And they'll say, well, I can actually translate the insights from coding into actionable decisions, actionable stuff that, the decision makers can use to make better business decisions. That's a better kind of statement of value. So try to figure out your own, but it's a long process. I did a course. I sat in on a course where it was like a 2-month course to get 2 months just to get that statement, because people were talking about, you know, their background and their things they did in the past, and we would go back and forth until we finally, for each person, got that kind of statement of value. So that is what that about section is. And I'd encourage you to check out my LinkedIn profile. I haven't touched it for a while, but it should be pretty good. And I have some other friends that I've helped that also have good ones. So there's lots of parts of LinkedIn. Like there's a media part, and there's like brands you follow, and you know, blah, blah, blah. Fill them all in as best you can, because the more information you have in your profile, the better job hunters will, you know, there's like algorithms that look for people who have certain skills and certain this and certain that. And if you have filled in your profile completely, you have more chance of being found by those sort of robot scrollers, as well as normal human beings. This is the website I keep talking about. I would encourage you to visit it, because 90% of the questions I get, the answers are already on that website. This is sort of the big picture of what I would cover if I had more time, and I am keeping my eye on the clock so I don't run out of time. This is what I was talking about at the start of this chat is the information you need is out there. You just have to find it, and you can find it through Google, or you can find it by talking to people. If you're going to school, these admissions officers have the information you need. They'll sometimes give you little tricks for getting into schools if they like you and if they give you the time. Then there's, in Canada, a lot of the professions are regulated by professional associations. So even if you're going into like construction, there's like a guild of construction, a union that you have to be part of to get the really good job. So as much as you can get into those professional associations, the better, because they'll help you get good jobs. And then if you are here as a refugee, you would have a caseworker, which is like a social worker, and they're also there to help you get established. So there's a lot of friendly people out there who can get you what you need. Networking, I mentioned this earlier, it's the most important thing in North America. Everything is networking. So whether it's in person, through social media, or through meetup.com or professional gatherings, like network like crazy. And if you're shy, get over it. You need to network. So, you know, I mentioned in the about section of my LinkedIn profile, it's sort of like, this is who I am. This is my value in the world. That's what these big questions are designed to get at. So this is almost a psychological exercise. And you might think, hey, I just am trying to get a coding job. I don't need all this stuff. You're still going to go through it. You're going to be interviewed, and you're going to have to talk about yourself in this sort of abstract way. So do your homework and ask yourself before your first interview, whether it's for school or work, about, you know, who am I, and what am I good at, and why am I different, and what is my plan for the future? Write a resume. So resumes are your key to everything in a kind of developed country like Canada and many other countries. And that includes school as well as work. So I'm calling it resume, but they have many different names. And there are many different kinds. So this is a banking resume for a banking job in Canada. Everything about this resume is controlled, like the font size, the fonts used, the number of bullet points, everything has to be absolutely perfect. Like this is, if you used a slightly different font, like wrong size or wrong this or wrong that, they would throw out your resume, because they say this guy doesn't know what a banking resume looks like. So banking resumes are extremely controlled, always one page, always like this, 2 to 3 bullet points, super brief, super simple. That is a banking resume. Graphic design resumes look totally different, because they want to see that you have like visual abilities. So this is what a graphic design website, this is actually a friend of mine, he's Syrian, and this is his actual resume. So graphic design website resumes look different. This is a technical resume. So this is for a web developer. There's a lot less kind of abstract stuff, but you will see at the top, there's like 7 bullet points of kind of a summary of why this person is great and you should hire them. So you can see a technical resume, which is like for technical jobs like coding and web development, very, very crowded. There's a lot of information, not a lot of white space. It's not a pretty resume. So it's like almost the opposite of the graphic design resume. This is a skills-based resume. I work in marketing, so I'm kind of like, and I'm an English graduate, English major graduate. So I'm going for more like artsy jobs. So this is kind of in the zone of like a resume I would write. And it's 2 pages. Canadian resumes are always maximum 2 pages unless you're applying to be a professor. So that's a key information, because I know in the Middle East and stuff, you would have maybe like 7 pages of resume and then like 15 more pages of certificates. In Canada, we don't actually ever include our certificates in our resumes. We just would mention them, but we wouldn't actually include like images of them. Everything has to be done in 1 to 2 pages. If it's a bank resume, 1 page. If it's a technical resume, 1 page. If it's like a skills-based or like communications, whatever, it's 2 pages. That's it, no more. and you don't need any certificates because people trust you. So if you say I graduated from blah, blah, blah university, you just mention it in your like education section of your resume. You don't actually include the certificate. If people want to see it, they'll tell you, but typically they just believe you, believe it or not. The other interesting thing about this resume is, if you can see, work experience is not until the bottom of the first page. So the top 2/3 of the page are all about like abstract stuff, like the summary, which we were just talking about. So marketing expert with a depth of experience, blah, blah, blah. Your strengths broken up into sort of areas like marketing, leadership, fundraising, adaptability. And then we get into work experience. So that's what makes this a skills-based resume. The focus is more on the skills than the work experience. This kind of resume doesn't work for every kind of career. It's definitely good for Canada, not good for a lot of other countries. I wouldn't use this resume in Malaysia, for example, because it's a more traditional country. But in Canada, I would recommend it for certain jobs. This resume is also especially good for newcomers because the big problem that newcomers have, as I mentioned earlier, is a lot of their experiences in non-Canadian countries, and that will get you ignored. Like, oh, who cares what he did in, whatever that country is? I'm not going to phone his reference in that country. So the good thing about this resume is the person reading it starts to fall in love with you before they realize, oh wait, all this stuff happened in Lebanon. I'm more likely to keep reading because I already think your skills are amazing. So this is a really good resume for new Canadians. One other trick I would say, which isn't here, is if all your work experience is in, say, a non-Canadian country, but you're taking Canadian school, one little trick would be to put your school on this front page. So at least somebody sees a Canadian something on the first page of your resume. So yeah, that's another argument for studying when you get here. I'm going to kind of, so this is the whole skills-based approach. It's really important for newcomers to be able to talk about their skills because it takes the pressure off, having Canadian experience. At least their skills are amazing. So here's as I mentioned, Canadian resumes are 1 to 2 pages. You do not in Canada list your religion, your marital status. You don't have a picture of yourself, in part because nobody cares here about things like religion, marital status, sexuality. They don't care. And we have a law called the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which prevents discrimination on things like religion, sexuality, marriage. And so if you tell people, hey, I'm a Muslim, then that gets them in pressure. Like if they don't accept you, maybe they're going to be accused of being prejudiced, right? So we just don't talk about that stuff. And we certainly don't talk about it on resumes. No personal information. Nobody cares how old you are, if you're married or whatever. Very different than other countries where you actually have to say like, I am a Yazidi whose religion is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm going to try to kind of breeze through this. These are the parts of the resume that we were just talking about, kind of your basic identifying information, summary, work experience, skills and achievements, and education. And Nurul, I can hear your kid. Other education, other information, education is important, especially if it's in Canada, even better. Volunteer work is super important. So that's another way of getting Canadian experience. One thing that makes Canada different than say Malaysia maybe is that volunteer work is considered often as important or sometimes even more important than paid work. Volunteer work is considered like you must have volunteer work on your resume or people are going to say, what are you, the most selfish person ever? Like you just work for yourself. So volunteer work is really, really important. And one additional advantage of volunteer work is you know, if you're having trouble getting that first big Canadian job, at least you can do volunteer work and write it as if it were like work, like job description and job title and the rest of it, only it's in your volunteer section. And that gives you more Canadian experience that you can point to in a job interview. And if you guys are in Malaysia, you should also be volunteering because it's a good thing to do to help other people, but also because if you do want to come to Europe, US or Canada, they're going to want to see your volunteer work. Like it's actually a prerequisite. Even high school students have to do 35 hours of volunteer work to pass the grade. They have to do it. It's mandated. So that shows you how important volunteer work is. When it comes to work experience, the bad way to do it is just list like what you did every day, like answered phones, you know, email communication. It's like everybody does that. Don't list that. The best thing to do is you almost tell a story in every bullet point. And the best kinds of experiences are where you started something and like led the project. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be a CEO to do this. Like, for example, if you were a janitor or a superintendent and you said, you could say, identified, you know, that we were overspending on cleaning products, found a new vendor and saved the company $26,000 a year, you know? So you're a janitor, right? But you actually saw a problem, fixed it, and had results that you can measure. You don't need to be a CEO to do that. You can do that at any level of any job, of any industry. You can see a problem, figure out a way to fix it, convince other people to sort of go with your solution, and then have results. And the best results are if you can have numbers attached, like 28% savings, team of 15, 6-week project. Like numbers are so important because they make something seem real, like you're not just talking nonsense. So that is ideally what you should do in your volunteer work and your work experience. And even with your schooling, you know, you're going to list your school, and then you're going to list a couple bullet points below, like treasurer of the marketing society or started a charity, blah, blah, blah. At least in Canada, that kind of extra information showing that the extra work you did is what will get you hired over somebody else, or you chosen for a school program over somebody else. So here's an example of some of those accomplishment statements. And notice all the numbers, like 5 projects, $1 million, 300 individuals, 8 teams, 16 promoters, 10% increase. These are the kind of accomplishment statements you want. So there you go. You want to show impact. 60%, 25 videos, this sort of thing. So you get the idea. I'm going to sort of skip through the rest. There are certain phrases people always use in resumes that they think are good for resumes, like team player, self-starter. Those are, everybody uses those and they're like garbage. Like, don't wait. You have very little space to say how great you are. Don't waste it on like words that everybody uses. Yeah. So skip, skip, skip. So when you've done all that work on sort of all these great things you did in your life, whether in school or volunteer or work, then you can write your profile statement, which is the one we started with, which is 1 to 3 sentences saying like who you are, why you're great. It's a weird convention, but you don't use I in the profile statement. You just have like, start with verbs like discovered 300 opportunities for blah, blah, blah. Like you don't say Hashid discovered or I discovered, you just say discovered. So here's a profile statement when you've done all that work. So if you notice, there's no I, there's no Hashid, there's no Stephen, there's just marketing expert, joining, having gained, eager. There's no I. It's a weird convention, but that's how it is in profile statements. So they're hard to write. Ask for help. You almost for sure need a native English speaker to help you edit it. And then share it with people who are kind of in the industry to say, is this good? And they'll say, this part's good, that part's terrible. So be prepared to ask for help. And one great thing about asking for help is people, at least in Canada, like helping. They like being asked for advice because it makes them feel like they're like experts and they're authorities and they're respected. So do ask for help, like easy help, like just edit these 3 sentences, not like edit my 35-page resume, but do ask for help here and there. And that can be its own kind of way of networking. And then once you've done all that, go back to LinkedIn, make it amazing. LinkedIn is one of the first things employees will check, and even schools will often check. Like my business school is a business school, so LinkedIn matters a lot. And LinkedIn helps you get jobs, among other things. You know, a lot of employers will just go to LinkedIn and hire through LinkedIn. And the other nice thing about doing all this work is it allows you to have the language you need for job interviews or even interviews to get into schools. Like they will say, so tell me about yourself. And if you haven't done all this homework, you're not going to have a good answer to that question. You should be able to say who you are and what's amazing about you in 30 seconds. It's called an elevator pitch. Elevator pitch, imagine you're in an elevator and oh my God, the CEO of the company comes into the elevator and he's like, I've seen you before. Who are you? You have 30 seconds between floor 1 and floor 12 to make an impression that will, you know, give you an amazing future. So you better use that time. You better have an answer that works in 30 seconds. That's called an elevator pitch. And then you'll have a longer version for like interviews, like a 2-minute version, a 5-minute version. So so that's the point of doing all that. I think I'm done, and I'm gonna unshare my screen now. Oh, good. We've got 6 minutes. Hashid, you're driving the ship here. What do you want to do with your next 6 minutes?
Great. Thank you so much. That was informative. That was a lot of knowledge, and hopefully those guys learn a lot of information how to do a great CV and if they need to apply to Canada or to come to Canada. So now, guys, we will start the Q&A session. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question or write it in the chat box as usual. There's some question, Mr. Stephen, some of them chatting me directly, message or privately. They says, hi, can I have the copy of Sir Stephen presentation slides too?
Yeah, so on the link I posted, which is how to write a Canadian resume. It's on the Northern Lights website. That slide share is embedded, but you know what? I have the link straight to the slide share, which I will post now. Done.
Okay, great. Thank
you. Hashid, there's also a hand from Khalid Khalil. I don't know if you want to go to him or if you want to read a question.
Okay, so
yes, sir. I want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Sir, as you said, can I ask?
Yep.
As you said before, the best way to enter Canada for fresh graduates is to enroll in a university and get a diploma degree. So afterwards, you can work. You have a work permit and you can work. But I want to ask, so fresh graduates usually are graduated from bachelor degree. So is that the easiest way to get into Canada? Is that a better way to make use of our bachelor degree?
Yeah, if you have a bachelor degree, I wouldn't get another one. I think that's a waste of time personally. I would just try to go, if possible, into a master's program at a university, though masters tend to be very academic and not getting you ready for the job market. So if you want to sort of get into the job market faster, I would take a college program. Colleges are designed to give you more practical skills in Canada, at least. And I would do a college certificate or diploma with a work study component. And that will get you into the job market faster. And one thing you mentioned, which is true, is an advantage of Canada, even compared to the US, is we give work permits to our graduating students. You're allowed to work while you're in school, and you're given a work permit after you graduate. So for a 1-year program, you're given a 1-year work permit in addition to the 1 year you had in school. So that allows you to stay in Canada for 2 years. If you take a 2-year program, you're given a 3-year work permit, and your spouse is, if you happen to be married, also given that. And that is why Canada is a top destination for international students, because like in the US, if you graduate from, say, Harvard, there's a lottery to get a work permit. They only give out 90,000 a year, and they have like 1 million students. So your chances are very low of being able to stay in the United States. In Canada, you're given like a 3-year work permit. And after 3 years in the country, you're allowed to apply for permanent resident status, so which leads into citizenship. So it's actually a path to becoming a Canadian citizen is just by taking a program. Now, the longer the program is, the longer the work permit, the work visa is. So go for a longer. And someone mentioned about being a mature student. It's totally fine to be a mature student in Canada. One thing that is different in Canada is, most countries you're supposed to do, like, be married by 21 and have the career by 23 and blah, 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 and have 3 kids by 28. That's not true in Canada. We don't have this age sort of preoccupation. People change careers in Canada 3 times typically in their lifetimes. So that means I'm an architect at, say, 21. I decide to be a lawyer at 32, and then I decide to be a marketing manager at 45. That's fine. We accept that. So if you want to go to school at 40, I have friends who did that, Syrian friends, and they got good jobs. So there's no problem with being a mature student here.
Oh, so what about the qualification, to change from one job to other job? They will ask about qualification in this, for example, and software engineering, and suddenly I needed to change to a lawyer, to be a lawyer. Is that
you would have
okay?
to go back to school. Yeah, no, you would have to go back to school. I have a friend who just walked behind us. He's going to law school. He's about 35 years old. He's just going to law school now. But he has to write the LSAT. He has to get accepted into law school. He has to go to law school for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. So he might be 38, 40 by the time he's actually ready to be a lawyer. But that's okay. It's okay to be a mature student.
I have also a clarification about what you said. After you graduate, you have permanent work for 2 years. Do you need to leave the country, or you don't need to leave the country after you graduate? You continue working, because here in Malaysia, even if if you graduated in Malaysia and you need to work in Malaysia and you get a work permit, or you apply for work and you get accepted, then you have to leave the country and come back again with a new visa. Is that how it works in Canada, or something,
No, you don't have to leave.
Yeah, okay.
You stay, yeah. Yeah, people stay, people come, there's somebody living in my house. He came on a student visa maybe 10 years ago. He hasn't gone back yet, so that's normal.
There's a question from Abdurrahman. He said, do you have any suggested office that can help students to get student visa?
Yeah, I know two immigration consultants here in Canada that I've known for like 5 years, and I trust them a lot. I always give their information to people. The thing is, they charge money. Like the work I do is free, so my whole job is to sort of help people who don't have money. But if they do have money, I always send them to these one of two immigration consultants. And if you know, I can share their information, but it's expensive. I can check exactly what it is, but I think it's like $1,500 or $2,000 for a student visa, something like that. So it costs money, but it's worth it. On the other hand, a lot of what I talked about today in terms of going to a serious program and getting a scholarship if possible and so on, if you can do all that stuff on your own, then you don't need to hire anybody. But if you do need to hire someone, I can share the contact information of two of these people with Hashid, and he can share with you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will send it to the group. Yeah, so we are all in one group, then I will send it to the group. There's any question, guys, just unmute yourself and ask if you have a question, or write it in the chat box and I will read it for Mr. Stephen.
All right, this is telling me we are done, which is great because it's 11:33. So
almost, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's 11:30. Yeah. So I'm happy to wrap up. I feel like we did a good job. But Haja, you should. I don't know how you do this, but this has been a good discussion, and I'm sure you'll get lots of questions. I'm not sure how you'll deal with them all, but that's an interesting question for another day.
Yeah, sure. For sure that we will have another series in future if they are interesting. Yeah. So we almost done today. That was great. But before we leave, there's a small gift for you, Mr. Stephen, a set appreciation to have you here today with us. We really appreciate your time. It was a great pleasure for us to have you today with us to share your knowledge, to share your wise, and that was very informative session. We have a great time really today. So I will share the certificate from ISS Yemen.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, we would like to take a picture. Yeah, we would like to take a pictures with you beside the certificate.
Yes, I don't know how to do that though because it's virtual.
Just to stay. Yeah, Muhammad or one of the guys will stay. We'll take the pictures.
Sure, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah, sure. I will take the picture now. Yeah, if you would like to smile. Wait, I need to pin you here to be beside. Okay, sure, wait, just give me a minute.
Wow, this is high tech. I can't believe you can do this.
Okay, sure, thank you. So
are we done?
Great. Yeah, we're done.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for organizing this session, and thank you. And I see Uli there too. So thank you, Uli, for helping Hashid be amazing all these years, and helping him, taking care of him in lots of ways. And Hashid, thank you for being so great. Like I'm so inspired by everything you do, and the way you're not just thinking of yourself, but thinking of other people. All the time, I think is really going to help you be a great success in life. So thanks for organizing this.
Thank you. It's our pleasure, really. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen. It was great to have you today with us. So great participants. We also thank you to have you today with us. It was a great time. It was great, and we appreciate having you here today with us. So I would like you guys to open the camera. for picture season.
Group picture?
So, oh yes, before that, I will send the certificate attendance. I will share the attendance for the certificate and merit. I sent also the certificate for life in Germany. So if you didn't receive your certificate or if there is something, you know, missing, please contact me directly and I will share the certificate with you. Please, could you please open the camera?
I see Mubarak Shah there. Some of people I know are in this room and I just realized that. Oh, there's Khalil Khazimi. Oh yeah. I had a lot of friends in this chat. Who knew? Oh, Zakir is here. Hi, Zakir. Didn't know you were here.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Glad to see you.
Yeah, thank you for all the informations.
Yeah, I hope it was good.
We'll
Mohammed
open the
Mehdi.
camera. The rest guy, would you like to open the camera, please? Okay.
What time is it there? Are people, I guess it's end of the night there, right? People are like half asleep.
It's almost 12 midnight here.
Mm. And send me this picture, Hashid, when you're done, because I'd love to post it.
Okay, sure, great. Guys, please, before you leave, fill up the form, the Google form in the chat box for the certificate.
No, there's Mubarak sitting in the dark.
Hi, Stephen and everyone. Hey. Sorry, I'm on the way. I'm still outside in the car. That's why there is not light.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
no
thank
problem.
you for such a great information and in this discussion, and we really learned many things. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Great, guys. So.
Oh, there we go. So get the picture. Mubarak still got light on his face. It's not going to last for long.
Okay, great. Wait, put a light on your face.
Wait a minute. I want to light.
Okay,
just
sure,
a minute.
no problem. Sure,
yeah.
No problem. And
yeah.
the rest, if they
go.
need, yeah, the rest, if they need to open the camera, just feel free to open the camera. Great.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, one again. Okay, it has been taken. Thank you.
All right,
great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. It was really great. Hopefully, we will have you again soon for such insightful webinar.
All right, so I'm going to log off. I've got my actual job to do now. So good seeing you all and hope to see you again soon.
Sure, thank you so much. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.